In Okuta, dead knocks with feathers. It doesn't matter if you pray. Once the bed lands, it already chosen. It all began many, many years ago, in the middle of a thick forest, where the big trees bent over muddy paths. There was a small town called Okuta. The people were strong. They farmed yam, cassava, and palm fruit. They lived quietly and didn't like trouble. They believed in spirits, in ancestors, and in old stories that were told by moonlight. But one strange night, something happened that changed everything. A blackbird, not like any bird the villagers had ever seen, flew in from nowhere. Its feathers were dark and shiny, almost like polished stone, and its eyes were red, like burning coal. It flew like other birds, flapping its wings gently through the air, but something about it felt deeply wrong, and it was quiet, too quiet. That night, it came and sat on top of the roof of Baba Ikaro's house. He was an old palm wine tapper. The bird didn't make noise at first. It only moved its head side to side like it was looking for something. Then it whispered. No one could really say what it whispered, but those who heard it said it sounded like it was calling a name, slow and cold. The next morning, Baba Ikaro was found dead in his bed. He was not sick, he was not old enough to die. He just died. The people cried and buried him, thinking it was just a sad day. But a week later, the bird came again. This time, it sat on Mama Ifuku's roof. She was a trader who sold pepper and fish in the market. Again, the bird whispered, and by morning, Mama Ifeko was gone too. Now, people started to whisper among themselves, what kind of bird is this? Why does it sit on people's roof and kill them? Is this a curse? Soon, the bird became a spirit of fear. They started calling it Ereke Ajo, the black whistler. It didn't come every night. Sometimes it would disappear for days. Sometimes it would return after 1 week. But every time it came, someone would die. The people cried. The villagers have tried many things. They called native doctors from far lands. Baba Eko, the one with one eye, came with his charms, but he ran away the next morning. Mama Itese, the woman with 7 snakes around her neck, stayed one night. The bird came, whispered, and by morning, she was dead. The villagers stopped calling for help. They said, let us not bring more death to our village. The king of Okuta, Uba Warosi and his elders, tried many sacrifices. They killed white goats, black chickens, even cows. They poured palm wine on the sacred stones. But the bird kept coming. It didn't care. The villagers began to live in silence. No more nice dances. No more stories by the fire. People even started sleeping outside, far from their roofs. But it didn't work. The birds still found them. It was like death had moved into the town. Then came the story of Aduma and her husband, Doro. Poor people. They lived in a small crumbling hut at the far edge of Okuta. Their roof leaked, their floor was bare earth, and they owned little more than a clay pot and a worn mat. Doro took any job he could find, clearing farms, carrying loads, while Aduma sold firewood for handfuls of gari. For 15 years, they had prayed for a child, but none came. Aduma cried every night. The women of the village mocked her. Maybe she is cursed, they said. Maybe her womb is dry. Neighbors whispered that they were cursed. No child, no wealth, not even a ghost to their name. Even Doro was laughed at. A man with no seed, they joked. But while the birds kept killing and the fear of Ereke Acho grew stronger, something strange happened. Aduma became pregnant. After 15 years of waiting, her belly grew round like the moon. And that, my friend, was when everything began to change. If joy had a sound, it would be the sound of Aduma's laughter the night she told Doro about the child growing inside her. But even her laughter was careful. This was Okuta. Joy didn't live long here, not since the blackbirds started coming. She told Doro in a whisper under the moonlight, while they sat behind their small hut. His eyes grew wide, his mouth opened, but words didn't come out immediately. He just stared at her belly. I carried a child, Aduma said again, this time placing his hands gently on her stomach. That was when tears fell, not from her, but from him. He cried like a child. He knelt in the dirt. He shouted her name to the night sky like a song. Aduma! He called again and again. His voice woke the ghost tied by the horse and scared the rats hiding in the yam barn. For 15 years, no fruit grew from her womb. The women in the market mocked her. The elders pitied her. Some said she was cursed. Some said Doro should take another wife, but he never did. She is my son, he would always say. If my son refuses to shine, I will wait for her lights. Aduma's belly grew like a drum filled with rainwater. People watched. People whispered. When she entered the market, some people looked away in shame. Others looked in wonder. Maybe she went to see a native doctor. Some said, maybe it's not even Doro's child. Others muttered. But Aduma didn't hear them. Her heart was full, her hands always on her belly. Even the palace heard the news. Oba Warosi's third wife, Lami, sent a small bottle of shea butter and a wrapper to Aduma. A gift for the miracle mother, the note said. The king's elders began to speak of the child in secret meetings. After 15 years of empty arms and unanswered prayers, a child finally cries in our compound. One elder murmured, eyes narrowed. Is it a blessing or a curse? Then, a night when the sky was heavy with stars, Aduma went into labor. It was sudden. She had been cooking yam porridge under the mango tree, yawning softly when she felt it. A sharp twist in her stomach. The wooden spoon dropped from her hand. Duro, she screamed, grabbing the tree trunk. He ran out barefoot. What is it? It's time, she said, sweat already pouring down her neck. They had no money for a midwife. No neighbor came to help. Most people still feared her, calling her cursed or strange. But Doro had watched a ghost give birth. He had watched his sister give birth many years ago. He helped her into their hut, placed her gently on their raffia mat, and held her hand through every scream. Outside, the wind changed. The trees swayed like they were bowing to something far away. The blackbird was coming, but they didn't know. Inside, Aduma screamed again. The pain shot through her back like fire. But then, a cry louder than her scream. Not ours, a baby's, a boy. His skin was soft and warm like fresh bread. His fingers were long, his eyes open, not crying, just staring. Aduma was too tired to speak, but she smiled through her tears. He is here, she whispered, and outside from a distant hills came a strange sound. The blackbird had arrived. Dero heard it before he saw it. The wind stopped. Even the frogs near the stream stopped croaking. Then the black winds passed over their huts. It flustered around their huts, wings beating softly in the still air. It circled once, twice, and then it had chosen. It landed on their roof, right above where Aduma and the newborn laid. Doro froze. Aduma began to weep. She pulled the baby to her chest and whispered, please, not now, not him. The bird didn't move much. It only shifted left and right, its red eyes glowing like fireflies. Then it began to whisper. It whispered into the wind, into the roof, into the child's ears. Duro held his wife and son close. He couldn't fight death. He couldn't stop a curse. He could only wait. The night was long, too long. Morning came. The cock crowed. Aduma opened her eyes. Her heart was still pounding. She touched her belly, empty. She touched her side. The baby was still there, breathing, sleeping. Duro got up and rushed outside. There was no crowd, no crying neighbors, no dead bodies, no mourning drums. No one had died. For the first time in many years, a Ekere Ajo came and no one died. By noon, the village square was full. The town crier shouted. The bird came, but no soul was taken. People didn't believe it. Some ran to Aduma's house just to see if it was true. They saw the mother, the father, and the baby alive. Maybe the child is powerful, one man said. Or maybe the bird is afraid of him, Mama Yaki said softly. That day, a new story began to spread in Okuta, a story of a baby born during death's visit, but not touched by it. Okuta was not a place where good news lasted long. Even a day full of joy, the air still carries the scent of old sorrow. The villagers were used to pain, used to mourning, used to the blackbird, Ekere Ajo, flying in with night breeze and whispering death into people's roof. But on that morning, everything changed. No one died, not even a lizard. The whispering bird had come, floated silently above Aduma's roof, perched, whispered, but took nothing. For the first time in years, Okuta woke up without grief. The sky seemed brighter, the trees danced a little slower in the wind. Even the ghost seems to smile, and the villagers could not keep quiet. Did you hear? Yes, the woman, Aduma, she gave birth. The bird came and left, and still no soul was taken. Maybe the child is not ordinary. The market was full of whispers and white eyes. Even the children chatted in song as they played by the stream. The bird came in the night. No one died. A baby cried, and death passed by. The bird came in the night. No one died. A baby cried, and death passed by. In the royal palace, Obawarusi sat with his elders in the open courtyard. He was thoughtful, his face calm like the river after rainfall, dressed in soft white wrappers, coral beads resting on his chest. He sipped gently from a cup of palm wine as he listened to the reports. Is it true, Kabiyesi? Said Chief Ndozi. The woman gave birth last night. The bird landed on her roof, but in the morning, nothing, no death, no cries, only joy. The king's brow rose slightly. Hmm, this is rare. Another elder nodded. Some say the baby is a spirit child. Does he carry something holy? Obawarusi smiled softly. Or maybe the girls have shown us mercy. One of his youngest wives, Lami, who had earlier sent Adamu a gift, leaned forward. Do you think the curse is ending, my king? The king didn't answer immediately. He looked up at the large Iroko tree in the center of the courtyard, its branches reaching into the blue sky like searching hairs. I do not know yet, he finally said, but I would like to meet the child. That same night, the wind changed, the frogs near the stream stopped croaking, the air grew cold, the blackbird returned. Ekere Ajo. This time, it flew over the rooftop until it landed on a small, slanted hut near the edge of the village, the home of Iriti, the old firewood seller. She was a quiet woman, thin and soft-spoken. Her husband had died years ago, but Iriti was not alone. She had a daughter named Fumi, a bright and clever girl with quick feet and a faster heart. Fumi was preparing their evening meal when she heard it, a faint whisper above their roof. Her hand froze mid-stare. Her chest began to drum like a talking drum. She knew what that sound meant. The bird had landed on their roof, and someone, her or her mother, was going to die before morning. She screamed, Mama, the bird is here. Heriti sat up on the mat, fear in her eyes. Erika, Joe. Fumi didn't wait. She dropped the wooden spoon, tied her scarf around her head, and ran barefoot into the dark, dusty night. She ran past the palm trees, past the market square, past the shrine, until she reached Aduma's hut. She didn't knock. She banged the door, crying, Please, please, open, Aduma, open, please. Duro came out first, alarmed. What is it? What happened? Fumi fell on her knees. Please, your baby, the bed is sitting on our roof. I don't want my mother to die. I don't want to die. Please, come with your baby and sleep in our house, just for tonight. Aduma came out, holding her baby close to her chest. She looked at the girl, then at Duro. What do we do? She whispered. Duro touched the baby's head. If he truly carries something greater than us, let him be the light that saves. Aduma didn't argue. She wrapped the baby in soft clothes and followed Fumi back through the night. When they arrived, Aduma laid the baby on a raised mat beside the old woman and whispered a quiet prayer. The bird stopped whispering, then slowly it flew away. The next morning, when Eriti stepped outside with the baby in her arms and Fumi smiling behind her, the neighbors froze. She is alive. It worked again. Maybe the child is more than a child. That same morning, 5 more villagers visited Aduma. Each had the same request. If the bird ever sits on our roof, please bring your baby just for one night. The people of Okuta now looked at Aduma's baby with awe. They called him Tubore, what brings peace. He was only 3 days old, but the whole village now saw him as a shield, and even the king began to prepare for the day he would ask to see the child. Because if a baby could silence death, then what else could he do? By the fourth morning, the village of Okota had changed. There were no drums for mourning, no fresh grapes tucked behind the palm trees fields, no sudden wells in the early hours. The village had never gone this many nights without death since the blackbird first came years ago. Now the people walked lighter, smiles slowly returned to wrinkled faces, laughter, once banned from gatherings or out of fear, found its way into evening talks, and everywhere you went, there was one name whispered like a song, Tubore. Aduma barely had time to rest. Each day, people came knocking, old men, women with newborns, hunters, market women, some even crying. If the baby can't sleep in our house tonight, we will leave, they begged. The bird just sat on our roof. Please, bring him, even for a few minutes. I saw it flying low near our house. Please, Aduma, help us. At first, Aduma hesitated. Her baby was still so small, so delicate, but Doro sat her down gently one afternoon, and she nursed her child. Have you noticed something? He said quietly. What? They once laughed at us, called us names, said we were cursed because we had no child. Now, they kneeled at your feet. You have not only given birth, you have given the whole village peace. Aduma looked at the baby. He was sleeping calmly, his fingers wrapped around her wrapper string. What if something happens to him? She whispered. Duro held her head. Then let us protect him. But we must not hide him. His life is not only ours. And so it began. Each time a strange blackbird perched on someone's roof, the family would rush to Aduma's hut, pleading for the child to spend the night under their roof. And each time, when Tubore was taken to their hut, wrapped gently and laid on a mat, by morning, no one died, not even a goat. Wool spread like Amatan fire, and with it came gifts. Villagers began to bring offerings, yam tubers piled by the doorsteps, pots of palm oil, white goats tied by the nearby trees, live fowls, bowls of honey, fresh wrappers, some even stuck coins and cowries into tiny clothes bags and left them quietly by the door. The once poor family suddenly had enough food to fill their compound. That was when the king heard of it all. Oba Warusi, ruler of Okota, sat quietly in his chambers, listening. He had heard the stories, the whispers. He turned to his guards. Tell Oduma and Doro I wish to see them. Bring the child. The palace is open to him. When the family arrived at the palace, the king rose from his carved stool and walked towards them. He looked at the child for a long moment before speaking. Thank you, he said, for bringing not just a baby into this world, but life back into our village. He held out his hand towards Tubore, who blinked up at him calmly. The old palace priestess, Aye Lala, stepped forward. Then, her hair was wrapped in deep red clothes, her eyes sharp and dry like old wood. She began to chant, calling on the ancestors, the land, the sky, and the wind. Then her voice grew still, and she began to speak, not in chants, but in story. A long time ago, she said, before your father's fathers were born, when the rivers still whispered to the trees and the earth still listened, a woman lived in this village. Her name was Eroala. She was very beautiful, with skin like river stone and eyes like morning dew. Her husband, a humble farmer, was found dead in his yam field. No one knew how he died, but it wasn't long after his burial that the king of that time, Oba Achesin, began to visit the widow, seeking her warmth. She paused. She refused. Again and again, people say he desired her so much he may have killed her husband just to have her. And when her rejection shamed him, he came in the night. He forced himself on her. The palace grew cold. And then Ajel Lala's voice dropped lower. He killed her too, buried her in a shallow grave near the edge of the forest. But the land remembers. Her spirit did not sleep. There was silence. Even the wind outside held its breath. The bird, Ajelala whispered, is accursed. Ajelala's voice faded into silence. No one moved, not even the guards at the palace doors. It was as if her words had pressed a heavy hand on every chest in the room. Then suddenly, she stepped back, her eyes rolling upward. She began to chant, softly at first, then louder, her voice trembling with something not of this world. Her feet shifted in slow cycles, and her fingers traced signs in the air. The elders who have seen her in trances before knew the spirit had returned. Smoke coiled from the clapboards beside her, as if drawn to her voice. Then she stopped. Her eyes snapped open. She turned and pointed at the baby resting in Aduma's arms. The gods have chosen, she declared. This child is not just a sign. He is the next king of Okuta. Only through him will the gods be lifted. Only when he wears the crown will peace return. Gas broke through the chambers like dry sticks snapping in fire. Aduma clutched her baby tightly. Duro stood, stunted. Our child? She whispered. King of Okuta? They looked at each other, disbelief swelling in their eyes. The once forgotten couple, mocked for years, now whispered about by nobles and priests alike. The gods choose them. Someone murmured, they were once nothing. The child stopped death. Another said, now he's meant to rule. King Warusi's face tightened. His fingers tapped the side of his throne. What do you mean, Ayelala? He asked slowly, though his voice held a sharp edge. Ayelala turned to face him, her gaze steady and fearless. The gods have chosen, Ayelala repeated. The curse cannot be broken by the one who cursed it. It must be broken by the one born pure, untouched by the sin of the past. The child must rule. He is the bridge between the dead and the living, between the cursed and the cure. The king's jaw clenched. After that day in the palace, the king could not sleep well. He walked up and down his chambers, deep in thoughts. Why would the gods choose a common baby to rule my people? I have a son. He is the rightful heir to the throne, the king said to himself over and over again. Ayelala had given the king just 7 market days to perform the rituals and make the baby the new king of Okuta. Word spread quickly through the village. People whispered it like wind in the trees. The gods have chosen the child. He must be king. On the seventh market day, the people gathered. Drums echoed through the land. Elders, children, traders, and hunters waited for the ceremony, but the powerful king stood strong. Never in my time, the king shouted. A baby will not sit on my throne. The palace grew silent. Not a word, not even a cough came from anyone. Ayelala stepped forward, her eyes glowing with spirit fire. My king, she said softly and firmly, this is not from me. This is what the gods have said. The child must rule us to lift the curse. The king refused. He waved his hand. Leave my palace, everyone. And so they left. For some time, the bird did not return. The people wondered if the danger had passed. Hope quietly grew again in their hearts. But then, one night, a strange chill filled the air. The bird came back. It flew quietly, as always, but this time, it hovered above the palace roof. Then it landed. Its red eyes glowed in the darkness. Its wings spread wide, and then came the whisper. Lami, the king's wife, woke up in a cold sweat. She heard this clearly. My husband, she whispered, the bed is on our roof. Send for the child. Let him sleep here tonight. Warosi turned his back at her. Never. Please, she begged. Let us not test the gods. He called his guards. Guards, fire your arrows, throw spears, kill that cursed bird. The guards obeyed, but their arrows passed through air. The spear hit nothing. In the morning, the worst had happened. The king's only son, a young boy not even 12, was found cold and lifeless. There were no wounds, no signs of sickness, just silence. Lamech cried out, falling on the ground. You killed our son. She wept bitterly. The palace filled with sorrow. The villagers gathered. Even those who once feared the king shook their heads in sadness. The king's heart broke. His face grew pale. His legs weak. He called for Ayelala. Bring the child. I will do what the gods have asked. Ayelala came, carrying the baby wrapped in white clothes. She brought sacred herbs, palm oil, and 3 white feathers. The ritual began. Chants rose into the sky. Drums beat like the hearts of the land. People stood still, watching with wide eyes. Ayelala placed the baby on a raised wooden stool. She lifted a small golden crown, one only worn during the sacred crowning of kings. She placed it gently on the child's head. The sky shifted. A soft wind blew through the village. The air smelled fresh, like rain and flowers. The people felt a dip in their bones. The curse was broken. From that day on, the villagers rejoiced. They sang, they danced, old women wept with joy. Children ran to the paths barefoot, laughing. Gifts poured in for the baby king, yams, oil, goods, wrappers, gold, even handmade toys. Aduma and Doro no longer had to worry about food or shelter. The baby grew strong. The people loved him. He listened to the elders, helped the sick, and walked among his people with love and calmness. His name became more than a whisper, it became a story. And as he grew older, he was told how he became king. He was told of the blackbird, the curse, the pain, and how the gods chose him. And so, the boy who once slept in the small quiet huts became the ruler who brought peace back to Okuta. And that was how Okuta was saved.